Hello, everybody. I'm Jess Sherman, a registered holistic nutritionist and author of Raising Resilience. What I want to talk about today, I don't know how long this is going to be, but I want to talk about getting back on track after a holiday. So if you followed my work at all, you'll know that, and if you haven't, then welcome. Nice to meet you. I would love to know in the comments, first of all, if you can hear me, but also who you are. I work with parents, and mostly parents who have children who are struggling with self-regulation in some way. So kids who have ADHD or autism, impulse control problems, aggression, tantrums, learning problems or difficulties, those kinds of kids. And I help parents figure out if there is and how there might be a food-related component, how food might either help or hinder their progress. So that's what I do. And I have found diet to be a very, very helpful tool to help kids learn better, feel better, have better moods, more stable moods. And so I teach parents how to be strategic about using food. And what it comes down to is how to use food to improve resilience. And that ties in with what I want to talk about today, because I talk about resilience. I define resilience as your ability to come back to center, your ability to come back to balance. And balance is not a static state that you're either in or not. Balance is a very dynamic process. A child who self-regulates really well can, when they're exposed to a stressor, they can come back to balance. And our body has dozens of compensatory mechanisms to help us come back to balance. So for example, when you get exposed to a virus, you get sick, you get thrown out of balance, and your body has an immune system that deals with the virus and then helps bring you back into health. And there's all kinds of things we're exposed to. There's environmental stressors, there's social stressors, there's things like relationship things. There's stuff like a stress when you walk into, if you ever walk into a room and you're just like, you feel stressed because the music's too loud or the colors are too brash, that's a stressor. And we have ways to calm ourselves down. And we learn some of those ways, and some of those compensatory mechanisms just happen automatically in our body. So what I teach parents is the effect of food on those compensatory mechanisms, how they can interfere with them, and also how food can support them. So the topic that I want to talk about really is how this applies to getting over a holiday. So I don't know about you, but I have 3 children, and we just had a 4-day holiday for Easter. And that 4-day holiday involved a change in routine. It involved so much was different. Our food was a little bit different. We went out to eat more. Usually we eat at home. We had visitors, so there was social stuff going on. There was sugar. There was too much chocolate. A lot of less sleep. We went to bed later, so our sleep patterns were a little bit off. That's a lot of stress for a body, and not surprisingly, Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, even a little bit today, everybody's a little off. Behavior's a little bit off. Expectations need to be reinforced. Sleep is a little bit off. Today the kids were super tired, hard to get them out of bed to go to school. So that is the body trying to self-regulate. It's the body saying, whoa, we just had an onslaught of stress, social, environmental, and physical stress. Now we need some time to recoup, and it takes a little bit a little bit of time to come back. Now, a resilient body will come back quicker than one that is less resilient. So, what I want to give you are some strategies for helping boost that resilience so that the body can come back to balance a little bit more quickly and efficiently. Because, so this is like an example would be if you're under stress, for example, Easter comes, you're under all these stresses, and then you get sick, right? That's the body saying, whoa, the stress just outweighed my ability to compensate. And it's still compensating, like the immune system is still activating and it's still working, you're not dying. But, you got sick. So the body's like, oh, I need to go to bed. I need to maybe not eat for a little while. I need to just shut her down so that I can work well and then come back to balance. But ultimately, we don't want that to happen. We don't want it to get that far. We want them still to be functioning. So I hope that makes sense. That's kind of the overarching message that I'm constantly talking about. In my book, I talk more about how this works, the stressors that our kids are under, the social, environmental, and physical, or I call them biological stressors that our kids are exposed to and that affect their ability to self-regulate and their resilience. And then I talk about 3 core strategies to focus on that help you use food in a way that supports the processes involved in self-regulation, supports those compensatory mechanisms. So we can apply all of that here. So over Easter, we're exposed to social stressors, environmental stressors, biological stressors, right? So some of the social stressors are relationships. So, visitors, or I don't know what your social dynamics are. Sometimes we spend more time with our kids, sometimes we don't. But it's something to consider, to be like, okay, now that we're in reset mode post-holiday, how can we start paying attention to some of those social stressors? Reconnect with our kids. Make sure that we're spending some quality time, doing the snuggles, doing the books, making sure you're home after school if you can. I understand that some of you can't be there after school, but just understanding that that social relationship causes more stress on your kids, and when you're trying to rebalance things, we're trying to relieve some of that stress. So that's just a strategy to reconnect with your kids and make sure that they know that you've got them, right? That would be social. Environmental would be paying attention to things like screen time, things like getting them outside, things like paying attention to music, music and sounds that are in your home. Maybe start, playing some classical music or some quieter music. It calms the nervous system. So again, understanding that they're coming out of a stress storm, 4 days of, different stuff. Kids really, I have found, respond well to predictability, structure, patterns, not like, I'm not saying like everything needs to be super, super structured, but familiarity is, I guess, what I'm getting at. So so you stick to your timelines, stick to your, that their day is they have, it's predictable and they know what to expect. This is not a good time to start changing things up. This is a good time for predictability, just to reduce that stress. So that's environmental. And biological stressors are what I spend most of my time talking about. These are the things that are going on in the body. So we want to calm the nervous system. So this is when I'm in, I call it damage control. Like I'm in damage control. This happens after Easter. It happens after Halloween. It happens after Christmas, when things go crazy, and then I'm in damage control and trying to just bring things back. I spend a lot of time on the, making sure that bedtime gets adhered to, and we get back into a rhythm of going to sleep, waking up, when you go, lack of sleep is a big stressor for kids. It's when your hormones reset. It's when you're detoxifying. It's when they're growing and creating growth hormones. Really, really important. So that's a biological stressor when you don't get enough sleep. So making sure that you get to bed at a good, decent hour. And even if they're not tired because they're out of whack, having calm, quiet, sitting, reading, try to get some restful time in there. That's one thing I focus on. This is a time when I meal plan. I know that food is just really important. We have earlier dinners when I'm in damage control, which I try to eat. And again, I know you have to deal with your own schedules and stuff like that. But we try to have dinner 5:30 or 6, making sure it's early so that we have time after dinner to just do some calm things, connect, digest, rest, and then get to bed. And that doesn't always happen in my life. Schedules are what they are. But when I'm in damage control, I do that for consistently for the following. I try to do it for like the week. We cancel things. We don't. We focus on the family unit. It's not a time I'm going to do play dates after school and stuff like that. So that is important, getting food in and making sure that I'm organized for food so that, we don't have a gourmet dinner, super nutritious dinner every night. We don't. I get that. Nobody does. But when I'm in damage control, I make sure that I'm organized so that we don't have our crap dinners then, because I know food's really important to get those body systems back on track. Blood sugar. Blood sugar is also really important. When blood sugar is doing that all day, that affects behavior. I talk a lot about that in my book. I talk a lot about that with my clients. When the body, that puts a lot of stress on the body when it has to manage blood sugar, because you're doing a crappy job of managing it for your body. Your body will manage. It's got compensatory systems to do that. But let's not ask it to do that when you're in damage control. Let's eat in a way that supports blood sugar. So again, lots of strategies for that in my book, but the ones that I focus on when I'm in damage control time are having a good breakfast with lots of protein and fiber in it. So again, I organize myself so I know, okay, after the craziness of Easter, I need to be organized to make sure that this good breakfasts happen. What else about blood sugar? Making sure they have a snack when they get home from school. That's a big one for us too. Because my kids here, we live in a kind of wooded area and they want to go out and play after school, and that's awesome. And I let them go out and play after school, but I want to make sure that they have a snack after school when they first get home. That is full of protein and fiber and slow burning carbohydrates to make sure that their blood sugar is stable and organized, so they're not starving. When they don't have a snack after school, they're starving at around 5:00, and that's half an hour before dinner. I don't want them to eat, and then it's just yuck. Behavior goes off the wall because their blood sugar goes crazy. So I insist that they come in, they have something, even if it's just they come in and we sit down and we connect. That's something. I try to get them to eat something. And sometimes when they sit down and they calm down, then they realize that they're actually hungry. Whereas if they say they're not hungry when they get off the bus and they want to go and play, they don't know that they're hungry because they haven't given their brain a moment to relax and recognize that they're hungry. So I insist that they come in and they sit down. I don't do that every day, but I do that when I'm in damage control time after something like Easter holiday. Okay, and the last thing that I wanted to talk about is repleting nutrition, because they had quite a bit of sugar over the holidays. And I mean, we all know sugar is bad for you, and yet there we are. And we went to, an Easter egg hunt, and it was fantastic. It was so much fun. And the kids had chocolate. Was I going to say, no, you can't have those chocolates? We don't have allergies, and we don't, it's not an absolute for me, because my kids, aren't on a, yeast diet or anything like that right now, for some of you, yeah, you do have to say no because it's going to do more damage to those kids. So it totally depends on where you're at. For my kids, I focus on resilience all the time, and so I know sugar is gonna stress out their compensatory mechanisms because it depletes nutrients and it affects blood sugar, and it increases inflammation and all of those bad things we know about sugar that I write about in my blog and in my book. But sometimes, you know what, we're going to say yes because it's Easter and they're going on an Easter egg hunt and they're having chocolate. So then I go into damage control and I say, okay, what do I know about what sugar does to the body? Well, I know it increases inflammation. I know it decreases white blood cells and the immune system. I know it impacts the gut bacteria. I know it depletes magnesium. So we're going to replete all of that nutrition. I'm going to try and do it in my food, but this is a time when I'm really diligent about the supplements that I give them. I don't give them supplements all the time, but when their body's struggling to get back to balance, like I know it is right now, this is what I give them. I give them probiotics to help replete that gut bacteria, because sugar destroys gut bacteria and it skews the balance. It feeds yeast and it impacts gut bacteria, so it skews the balance in your digestive tract. So I give them probiotics. I give them cod liver oil to get those anti-inflammatory fatty acids and vitamin A and vitamin D, which are really important for the immune system and for inflammation and for the gut mucosa and for just about everything. So I give them cod liver oil. I give them magnesium. Magnesium is a very calming mineral. It is sorely lacking in our food supply, so I give it to them periodically, and it's involved in so many chemical reactions. I'm not giving them magnesium for one particular thing. I'm giving it to them because it's such a broad spectrum mineral, and also because sugar tends to deplete it. So I give them magnesium. And because we're dealing with a little bit of hyperactivity, a little bit of anxiety, because their stress response is working overtime because of the stressors that they have just come through. So I give them magnesium. And the last thing I'm really careful about is I increase their fruits and their veggies. And I do that through supplements. Oh, hi, Carrie. I'll answer that in just a second. I give them... I have two fruits and veggie supplements that I give them. And I don't do it all the time, but I do it when I'm in damage control. I give them one called Green First, and I mix that with a little bit of pomegranate juice. So yeah, I'm giving them a little bit of sugar that way, but it gets the greens down. And I give them Juice Plus. And I give the gummies to my little ones, and I give the capsules to my 10-year-old. And to keep this in mind too, I do all of this for myself as well. All of it. Right? So we're managing our stress for our kids, and it's so easy to just sort of focus on them. But I do it for me too. I make sure I'm moving my body. I make sure I'm getting to sleep at a good hour. I make sure I take all of those supplements as well, because I need to manage my stress response so that I can help them as well. So Carrie, what are you saying? How do you get your young picky eaters with sensory issues to take supplements like cod liver oil? He'll only eat like 3 things as it is. Yeah. Okay, that's a big question. First of all, you can't force a kid to take anything. I get that. God, this is a big one. You have to understand what is driving the picky eating and uproot it from the inside. So, yeah, we want him to get the cod liver oil. I don't know if it's a him or a her. Yeah, he. But it's fishy and it's fatty, so he needs to be digesting fat. So sometimes kids won't take the oils if it makes them feel nauseous a little bit. If they're feeling nauseous when they're taking oils, it means they're not digesting it well and they need an enzyme to help digest it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Try and figure out why he's not taking the oil. Sometimes it's the smell, and sometimes that can be masked by putting it in applesauce or putting it in a little bit. I'm not against giving a little bit of juice. Oil's a bit tricky to do that way because it separates. The other thing you can do, if you can't get cod liver oil into him, give him vitamin A and vitamin D drops. Just 1 drop each. That's a little bit easier to give. And he's not going to get the fatty acids that you get in the cod liver oil, but it's something. And it's easier. What else can we do in there? Yeah, I mean, ultimately we need to expand his diet. That would be my first order of business because, you know, we can't force him to do anything. I don't know if that answers your question. I have found mixing oils with applesauce helps. Apple butter sometimes helps because it's sweeter. What else do I mix it in? If you can mix it into a smoothie, would he do a smoothie? Sometimes kids don't like that because it's all blended up. Or make a smoothie into more of an ice cream, so making it thicker and putting it in there. So the only difference between a smoothie and an ice cream in my world is that a smoothie is you drink it, and ice cream is more solid. So, but you put the same stuff in it. What else for soup? Would he eat soup? You're feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, it is overwhelming. And if it's too overwhelming, quite honestly, don't do it. If it's too overwhelming, don't do it. Pick your battles, right? I think for someone who's really only eating 3 things, figuring out the root of the picky eating, it could be digestive. It could be, it's often digestive. So working with sort of probiotics and working with digestive stuff first might expand the palate. Sometimes it's nutrient deficiencies, so zinc is a good one to start with for picky eaters. It looks like water and it tastes like water, so it's usually pretty easy to give. Don't give a lot, like 10 to 15 mils is enough. And that can be mixed into anything because it's clear. Smoothie, one thing that he'll eat. So maybe a smoothie. Maybe just give him a little bit, because sometimes you give kids a glass of smoothie and you put your wonderful expensive supplements in it and they only drink this much. So maybe just a little bit of smoothie. Some people have success freezing smoothies into popsicles. So now with the warmer weather, that could be something to try. Yeah, liquid zinc. Yeah, you can get Metagenics makes a liquid zinc called Zinc Drink. Gamadin, Soroil makes one that comes in little ampoules. The other way to do zinc is a lozenge, which they can suck on, but sometimes picky kids don't like that. So I find the liquid is a bit easier. Yeah, so I hope that helps. Got to figure out what's causing the pickiness. Do you have my picky eaters course? Because I go through in that, and I've got several blog posts about it as well. And I think I have a blog post about picky eating and like a little summary sheet that you can download about what causes picky eating. Picky eating doesn't just come out of nowhere. Something drives that, like something drives all behavior in kids. And it could be something social, like power struggles, power dynamics. It could be something coming from the gut. So something like, for example, yeast craves sugar and nothing else. And so that's going to generate sugar cravings. It could be, or like I said, like not feeling well. It's like they'll eat something and it makes them not feel well, and so they don't want to eat it. It could be coming from nutrient deficiencies that are interfering with the hormones of the hunger cues and the satiety cues. And so that's listed on those blog posts. Okay, so what were we talking about? Back to what we were talking about. Yeah, that's all of it, actually. Those are all the supplements that I give my kids now. And really just focusing on those social, environmental, and biological stressors. Understanding our kids' behavior is sometimes so important for relieving the stress of the family. Understanding that when my kids are like hyperactive or exhausted or, you know, just being different and like just acting out in some reason, understanding that it's because they are out of balance. They're constantly trying to bring themselves back into balance. It's called allostasis, this idea of balance, and their allostatic load is all of the stressors that they're under. When they're under stress, they're like this, and their behavior is going to go off the wall. And just understanding that, okay, they're under stress. What do I need to do to help their bodies? That's why they're acting out. They're not just doing it to push my buttons. It's being driven by this, their stressors. How can I bring them back? How can I help bring them back? And to help bring them back, I address their social stress, their environmental stress, and their biological stress. And I do what I can to help manage those things. Carrie, thank you. I will check out your resources. He has a lot of causes. Yeah, they always do. One, he was given IV antibiotics in the NICU for no reason. Yeah, I mean, antibiotics, we're in a very interesting time right now because we have this tool, antibiotic, which is life-saving in some cases, but we're also finding out more about the collateral damage that we didn't have a clue about when antibiotics were invented or were discovered. So it's interesting times. They couldn't find the results of my Group B stress test, which was negative, so they treated him prophylactically without my consent. Yeah, I mean, like, that's what doctors want to manage damage, right? And in their mind, it was more dangerous to let it go because strep infection can be fatal. Whatever, you know what, Carrie, it happened. Whatever, you're in damage control, right? And you'll be there for a longer time. So we're going to do what you can. Like, don't worry about what you can't do. Do what you can, and that is support the gut at this point with the tools that we have. And more information is coming out about tools. Zinc is really helpful for that gut mucosa as well. So it's involved in the hunger cues and the taste buds and all of that. But it also is involved in helping that gut mucosa heal. So that'll be helpful. Any other questions? You're welcome. You're very welcome. I hope that helps. It's part of a really big picture, but what I want you to understand is that food is a really powerful tool, and what you do in your home is a really, really powerful tool. You have a lot of control over your kids' stress response and how they learn to use it. So I hope that helps. Damage control. Go to my website, lots of resources there about what I mean about resilience, about how food, there's a video there. If you go to, my website is jesssherman.com. If you go to the top, there's a link to a video. You can also find it at foodforgrowthandlearning.com. And that video explains the ways that food influences our ability to self-regulate and our resilience, which is helpful for everybody. Everybody. We are under so much stress now, right? We're between the chemicals and the busy lives and the, stresses of money and marriage and whatever it is, family stress. Moms who are, trying to be the perfect mom and work. It's just stressful. It just is. We are under so much stress now. And we need to manage our ability to respond to that stress, keep ourselves healthy so that we can respond. Okay. If there are no more questions, I'm going to sign off for today. And any more questions? Do the best you can. And continue the conversation. I'm going to try to do more of these. And also lots of resources on my website. Talk to you soon.